There perhaps will be no closer watched set of numbers than those we will read in the next few days. The polls that are being taken as we speak, asking people if their opinion of Hillary Clinton has changed now that the FBI has decided they will not seek criminal charges against her regarding the email server scandal. Republicans are furious, calling this just another example of how the Obama administration and others are seeking to orchestrate the presidential election and ensure the Democrat becomes president. Democrats are cheering and preparing T-shirts with the phrase "Madam President" emblazoned on both sides as they begin celebrating what they believe is a coronation. But those pesky poll numbers will continue to roll, and the smart money is that they will change thinking on both sides for a time. But last until November? Not likely. Your comments need to be a part of the conversation. Get on the line right now. Prepare to speak up. 1-877-Newsmax. 1-877-639-7629. Let's dig into this and a whole lot more. Welcome back, veteran economist, University of Maryland professor of business, and nationally syndicated columnist whose latest can be read on the electronic pages of Newsmax.com, Peter Morici. Peter, thanks for joining us. Let's go ahead and look at the numbers here because I know you watch them just as closely as we all do here. The latest NBC News SurveyMonkey weekly election tracking poll, there's a mouthful right there to get out, basically tells us that Hillary Clinton has a 5-point lead over Donald Trump. However, it is also interesting here, Peter, because if you look at how she would fare against other Republican candidates, she ties Romney, she loses to Paul Ryan, and she loses even bigger to John Kasich. Okay, that's all nice to look at here, but in your opinion, does it mean anything whatsoever? And do you think the numbers will radically change in light of what happened today from the FBI?
I don't think they'll radically change. Folks don't like Hillary Clinton, and they've decided they don't like Donald Trump either. And these revelations about Hillary Clinton are hardly revealing, so to speak. We know she processed a lot of emails on her server, so are we surprised that there was confidential information there, that there was classified information? I don't think anybody's been surprised by that finding. It is contrary to the narrative she's been giving us, but is it anything new that Hillary Clinton lies?
Is it
now,
anything
we'll find
new
out more next week. It takes 2 or 3 days for something like this to register with voters. And then you have 2 or 3 days of polling. So it takes about a week to see a poll that will show you the real impact of what happened today.
When you talk about anything new, you hear from the left today, career Democrats, they're saying she's free, she's exonerated, the FBI won't be coming after her. But how can they, for whatever reason, reconcile that with the facts here? If you listen to Andrew McCarthy at the National Review, Sidney Powell, who we just had on the show, they say there's no doubt she broke the federal penal code here. And what is basically being done is new language almost is being written in by the FBI director to take the word negligence and make it gross negligence. How do Democrats live with themselves is what a lot of Republicans are going to be asking right now, and a lot of Democrats as well, knowing full well that she barely got off. She skated on a technicality.
Well, people will live with a lot to hold on to the crown, so to speak. They lived with a lot with Bill Clinton, for example. I mean, I don't know what more Bill Clinton had to do to be impeached, to be convicted in an impeachment trial, but he wasn't. Likewise, Hillary Clinton is the best option they have for holding on to the White House at this point. It would be very difficult to organize the the executive committee of the Democratic Party to change the rules, to put Biden in there. She would have had to be indicted for that to happen. But the fix was in when Loretta went and met with Bill Clinton on the plane prior to this coming down. The president had to know this was coming down for him to schedule a campaign appearance and fly her down on Air Force One. I mean, he's parading her around like the crown princess. I think this will cost her a couple of points in the polls, but I don't think it's enough to make Donald Trump president for 2 reasons. I don't think he can get 6 points out of it. And even if he did, it wouldn't be enough. Leading by 1 or 2 points is not enough because people like Kasich are not willing to put their ground games to work for him. He has to have a lead of 3 or 4 points because of his lack of a ground game and a campaign organization and so forth. This is a guy who is really going to have a lot of trouble getting his voters out.
All right, I'm going to throw you a curveball here, Peter, and let's go ahead. We're going to look into the crystal ball here, and we're going to come up with what might likely be fantasy here. But let's go ahead and just speculate, if we will. Donald Trump breaks another record. This is in the Gallup poll. He's more disliked than any general election candidate in the last 60 years. Even Barry Goldwater was never as looked at as negatively as Trump is now. Republican National Convention comes up first. The numbers I just pointed out here a couple of minutes ago show that Hillary, even at her best, doesn't do well against other Republican candidates. Matter of fact, she might even do worse now if she is injured by this in any way. The RNC comes along, the convention is there. They see the numbers. They decide to go ahead, wait a minute, maybe we should let somebody else get in there. And then the Democrats are sitting there saying, wait a minute, but we can only hope that you do that because then we can throw Biden and or Sanders or somebody else in there. I mean, honestly, what we're talking about here has never been done before. It would be a cataclysmic event if it happened politically. But might it?
It could, but I doubt that it will. He will gain enough in the polls out of this FBI finding to basically put the kibosh on that. The only person they could nominate that would beat Clinton would be Kasich. My feeling is if they put up Ryan, right now he's got a 1-point lead over Hillary. Once you get him out there, he's not a very dynamic fellow, and he's not very flexible in his ideas. He's very, very rigid in his conservatism. It makes him a good Speaker of the House, but it doesn't make him presidential timber. My feeling is Kasich's the only one that works. And since Kasich could only win Ohio, it would look terribly unfair. And frankly, a lot of conservatives would just stay home.
Let's look at the vice presidential race that everybody is talking about now for Donald Trump. I'm looking at all the numbers here and all the people. Let's see. Newt Gingrich. I see Chris Christie, Bob Corker, Mike Pence, Jeff Sessions. Joni Ernst is in there right now. Why are we making such a big deal out of the vice president here? Is this really going to be anything that will change anybody's mind? And quite frankly, why should we care?
We have had examples of vice presidents making a difference, but you haven't given me a list that has anybody that could make a difference. I mean, Joni Ernst is a fascinating choice, but she's going to be seen as tokenism, much the way Geraldine Ferraro was. There are two cases in the last 100 years that I can think of where the vice president was very, very important. When Teddy Roosevelt ran for vice president, McKinley stayed home on his front porch, and it was Roosevelt that went around the country and campaigned and endeared himself to the electorate. Now, he was running in a very favorable situation. They were favored anyway. Lyndon Johnson was very helpful to John Kennedy, but I can't see anybody that you've named that's going to make that kind of difference. The people that could have made a difference don't want any part of Mr. Trump. People like Jeb Bush or Kasich really don't want any part of him. And that's his basic problem. He cannot attract the middle of the party. He can't attract moderate women. He can't attract women over 50. He's alienated most of the Hispanics in the country. The blacks, they always vote Democratic anyway. But, you know, other Republicans have managed to peel off some black votes. He may set a record low among blacks to the extent that they come out. So my feeling is this vice presidential list reflects his troubles and woes. He's had his Nova, and now he's about to come back down to earth, to mix metaphors, and live with the reality of the things he said. He is the classic Republican candidate. He said what he had to say to get through the South Carolina primary, so to speak. And now he's stuck with what he said.
And he's going to have to be hammering away at what happened today over and over again. You get a feeling that things like who's going to pay on Air Force One and memes that basically were received on tweets from very suspect sources are going to go away very quickly. Peter Morici, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. I look forward to talking to you again real soon. All right, let's go ahead and get your take on all this very quickly. Again, be on point. 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-Newsmax. Be on point, be quick. Jim from Rockaway, New Jersey, give us your point on Hillary and the charges that were not filed today.
Well, I'm not surprised. A lot of people are surprised. I'm not surprised. When I saw that they only spent 3.5 hours interviewing or interrogating or whatever term you want to use, right away I knew that this was going to be just a show, a dog and pony show.
So you think the fix was in?
It takes, just to get a gauge, I've done interrogations as a police officer. It takes at least a couple of hours to get a gauge of the suspect.
So let me just ask you, Jim, because I'm out of time. You think the fix was in, yes?
Yes, it was
All right.
definitely in.
Jim, thanks so much. Please call us again. Mike from Henniker, New Hampshire. Mike, go ahead. You got 30 seconds. Go.
Yes, definite corruption in Washington. I mean, I just can't see how these people can live with themselves.
Why should you be shocked, though? Why should
They
you
do
be shocked,
nothing
though,
about
Mike?
immigration.
Corruption in Washington. Why be shocked?
Well, yeah, I know.
Think about
exactly.
it.
Why be shocked? But, somebody's going to have to be held accountable for this sooner or later.
Well, but it doesn't seem as if the Justice Department nor the FBI wants to. By the way, I take it you're not going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely not. Donald Trump, all the way.
I did not think so. Staying Republican. Thanks a lot for the call. More calls coming up right after our next segment. Why should what happened today have an effect on the electability of Hillary Clinton? One of the questions we will put to the political animal next. Get online. Be ready. Have your take. 1-877-NEWSMAX. 1-877-NEWSMAX. Right here on the Hardline.